This month we've seen something quite special, the first ever game jam for the AI in games community. Viewers of the show were tasked with building their own games and submitting them to the jam within a 1-week time frame, creating a fun, exciting but still demanding marathon of game creativity. While 1 week might seem like a long time, it can still prove to be a very demanding time frame when building an AI for a game. Of course, the big challenge can often be to satisfy the theme of the jam, which in this case was breaking the rules. This was a theme designed to give developers a lot of flexibility, given it could easily apply in so many elements of aesthetics, core mechanics, or even the behaviour of AI systems. When a game was submitted to the jam, we asked that the developers explain how it works, meaning we could get some insight into what might look like a seemingly complex game that was actually achieved really easily, or in fact vice versa. This is the first time we've attempted to run an event of this kind for the AI in games community, and I've been blown away by the response. We had just shy of 900 signups for the event, resulting in 128 entries being submitted at the end, with the event appearing as one of the featured jams on itch.io where it was hosted, which, when you consider the competition out there, that's really saying something. Our Discord server was booming with activity, as people shared ideas, works in progress, and helped one another with challenges they faced, resulting in a bevy of fun and interesting games. All in all, it has vastly exceeded my expectations. It was important afterwards that everyone had a chance to have their say and check out the games involved, be it to leave feedback or just have their say on what were the most fun and interesting experiences people had constructed. Hence, the public could vote and leave feedback on the games that excited them the most, and we had just over 1,600 ratings submitted across all games. Plus, this helps me get an idea of what games the community thought were interesting, and how my opinions might fare against yours as I sat down and checked out the top 60 submissions. Yep, that's right folks, I sat and played the top 50% of the jam, or at least tried to. My Windows Defender is really not happy with me right now. I'm Tommy Thompson. This is AI in Games, and with all that said, let's get into the Game Jam submissions. There's a huge range of different ideas here, not to mention tech, with games submitted built in Unity, GameMaker, Godot, Unreal Engine, and more. What I'm about to list is not necessarily a best games of the jam list. By all means, you can go and check out the full list over on itch.io, where you can see, of course, our highest ranked game overall was Break the Rule by X in Immersion, in which you're trying to hunt down the ruler of the land so you can stab him in the back. But rather, this video is about the games that I personally enjoyed the most, or piqued my curiosity, that I really wanted to give them some airtime. Hence you'll find they're not all from the top 10 of the public rating, but a mishmash of stuff throughout the rankings. So here they are, in no particular order. Here's my favourite games of the AI in Games Jam 2021. First up, we'll start with Hamlet, a game in which the theme is utilised to break the rules of a puzzle game when it's convenient for you. Your robot can only move forward, but different coloured tiles influence its behaviour, such as doing 90 or 180 degree turns or even teleporting. The AI part is that the levels were procedurally generated beforehand, with some minor editing to ensure they're fully playable. This type of puzzle game is often quite interesting to try and procedurally generate at runtime, given you effectively need to encode your design rules for a given level, as well as a solver within the game that can ensure a given level is completable. It's simple, but it's quite fun, and I think this game has a lot of potential. Dummy Fight is an interesting cross of the arena-style combat of Smash Bros. With the epic boss fights of Dark Souls. Players go one-on-one against an AI adversary powered by a finite state machine, with a little bit of utility AI along the way in order to help it decide on specific states to transition into. The enemy is balancing what it should do based on the player's current distance and speed alongside its own internal timers for specific moves or attacks. While it's still got some refinements to make, including a little more awareness of its arena boundaries, there is a nugget of fun in here, both as a multiplayer game, but also as a game built around individual boss characters having unique attack patterns and designs. The award for cool looking game that I couldn't play for shit goes to Aquatic Deceptions, a game about identifying fish that are changing colour. A great example of using flocking behaviours to create interesting characters moving around a fixed environment. It's conceptually a great idea. You tag the fish that are changing colour, which are therefore breaking the rules. However, the timer is incredibly punishing, and this, combined with the fact I am colourblind, made this impossible for me to even finish one level. If anything, I think changing the game from a fixed timer counting down to a timer that goes up with ratings based on time taken would make this a much more enjoyable and relaxing game than it currently is, given the fish are very fun to watch. Plus a special shout out to Penny DeBill and their Holistic 3D YouTube channel, given it was Penny's Udemy series that inspired this work. Attack of the Normally Genetically Engineered Robots, or A.N.G.E.R, is an interesting tower defense game in that while it's using a lot of rudimentary AI for the towers and such, the really interesting part is the robots themselves. The robots are generated using a genetic algorithm. As such, their traits, such as resistance to specific weaponry, their speed and other properties are unique to them, but they can breed new robots between waves. Each robot is assessed on how well they perform in a given wave, and the best robots are then used to make more robot babies, meaning that as they increase in number, they also get harder to fight against. Now we first get a tower defense, then there's also real-time strategy. Grid Wars is an RTS game about collecting tiles of the map and building units, and breaks the rules by allowing the player to possess individual units and guide the flow of battle. It was pretty impressive to see a full-fledged, albeit simplified RTS appear in the jam within that 1 week time frame. The developers acknowledge the game uses an implementation of goal-oriented action planning, the AI of Fear, and I think there's scope for a lot more work to create a streamlined RTS game. Although I did find possessing the robot completely breaks the game, as I could wipe out the opponent single-handedly. But hey, that's because I'm a persistent son of a bitch. Certainly, one of the most novel entries was Sand Flag. This game is inspired by playing at the beach, where you would play a sort of Jenga-esque game of scooping away sand, and the player who knocks down the most flags loses. It's really well put together, and the terrain deformation is very engaging. What's interesting to me is how frustrating the AI is to play against. It certainly took a few tries to begin to spot what areas of the terrain I should be targeting so as to stop the AI player exploiting it when it was their turn. The AI itself is running a relatively straightforward process of assessing points on the map to determine how risky it would be to shift the sand at that point. It then prioritises moving the in-game cursor around the areas it has ranked as the safest for it to pursue. What's fun is you'll no doubt have spotted we can actually see the AI decision making in action. It visualises this process in a way that helps players understand what's happening, the rationale for decisions that were taken, and gives you some guidance on how to act in future playthroughs. Fantastic work. The award for most on the title screen goes to Eye of the Big Brother, a really funny traffic management simulator where your job is to identify who is not obeying the traffic laws and punish them. The game employs a complete traffic system, with cars moving around a defined speed limit, driving between junctions, waiting at lights, and then continuing on through a small city. Your job is to spot cars that go above the speed limit or ignore the traffic lights and blow them to smithereens, with new junctions opening up as you score more cash for eliminating rule breakers. The game has a really nice sense of humour, and it's really well put together. And I have to admit, obliterating traffic violators is incredibly satisfying. Wendell Tank, or Wendell Tank? Not sure, is arguably my favourite application of the theme. It's a clone of the top-down two-player gun battles that you would typically see in the likes of Combat on the Atari 2600. That's right kids, I'm old. But this time around, the opponent is not only a simple AI, but one that begins to cheat the more that you win. The longer you play the game, it begins to break the established rules. You might not be able to move or fire for a round, the walls might now be destructible, or they might try to kill you. There's a lot of different ways in which the increasingly frustrated, albeit entirely fictional computer player can go about breaking the game to suit their needs. And sure, this isn't an actual AI that's doing this, but the way that it's put together is ultimately really engaging, and I was laughing all the way through it. The award for most visually impressive would have to go to Inhabitants of the Fir Forest, a game that has had a lot of interest come its way from Let's Players who checked it out prior to me. The creator is a big fan of making horror games in Unreal Engine, and so this looks like a continuation of that body of work. I think that's really evident given the visual polish and tight pacing. The environmental art plus cutscenes and a small but building narrative really sets a tone that makes the game quite distinct. The AI itself is predicated on the enemy you fight at the end, which is done very much in a Souls-like fashion. Given that this was completed with a few days to spare, it leaves a lot of scope for future improvements of the combat, though much of that is reliant on the animations and other art assets being in place. Doesn't really fit the theme, but certainly one to keep an eye out for in the future. Perhaps one of the most literal applications of the theme is crime bots. Players have their own little army of bots that are all active and moving around a map committing crimes. However, they only commit crimes because they are programmed to do so. There's actually a fully fledged token-based language parser in here that lets you design specific actions and then have the robot commit them in sequence. The robots themselves are then running on a finite state machine to move around and execute behaviours. All the while, there's idle dummy robots that you can reprogram, and the police are on your tail to beat you up and drag you away for committing robocrime. It's evident that the game intends to ramp up to the chaos seen on screen now, and that players would gradually be introduced to each new function they can execute. So it does mean playing it at the end of the jam can seem quite anarchic and difficult to understand, but there's a lot of potential here. The ability to have any character break the rules by reprogramming them is actually quite satisfying. Very cool idea, and considering its ambition is also quite nicely polished too. Great job. Next up is Break the Sky, which is a hot contender for my most replayed game of the jam. A conceptually simple game of flying around and shooting down waves of enemies, with an aesthetic that very much screams the likes of Luftrausers. The fun part is that your ship has no weapons, and instead you rely on a series of drones that fly around you, acting as both firepower and shields. Once you run out of drones, you have no means to fight back or to defend yourself, so using the drones to protect you and defeat enemies is the key to survival. The AI here is in two forms. First, there is the basic movement of enemies, some of which use a nice steering maneuver to follow you and keep pace, but the highlight has to be the drones you utilise. A flocking algorithm is employed that has the drones not only surround the ship, but they move to the back of the pack when they are reloading, which is actually quite exciting to watch. Plus, you can change the layout of the flock to be tighter or broader, depending on the type of attack you want to make. It's very well put together, and a lot of fun. Oh, and for reference, I believe the developers addressed the theme by breaking the rules of the jam and ignoring the theme, which means next time I really need to come up with something a little less meta. Wave Function Cat Labs is a simple cat and mouse game with a twist. Each run of the game uses a procedural generation algorithm, notably Wave Function Collapse, to generate the maze, but the player can only see a certain amount of the map at any point in time using their immediate field of view. And this is where it gets interesting. The map is only being procedurally generated when it's in the light, so if you turn away from looking at a particular part of the map and then look again, there's a good chance that the map has completely changed. This also applies to the cats you collect to score points, as a reference to the Schrodinger's cat experiment. This ever-evolving map, combined with the fact that some evil cat monster thingy is chasing you, makes for a really interesting dynamic. You can drop bombs that will illuminate an area of the map and eliminate the enemy, at the cost of losing a fixed chunk of the map space to follow. All in all, one of the most novel level generation ideas I've seen. Great stuff. And last but most certainly not least is Tic Tac Robot. Now, when I first saw this in the ratings, it took me by surprise. It's about playing noughts and crosses, or tic-tac-toe, but it ranked third in the public vote. There's a lot going on here, and it's one of the most polished and nicely put together games in the entire jam. First of all, the AI in the game is actually a lot of procedural elements and the bot player itself. The robot's arm, its movement and its behaviour are all part of the AI codebase. That poor person in the water tank in the corner is using a procedural inverse kinematics system to have them float and move in the tank. Plus, of course, there's the behaviour and decision making of the bot itself when it's playing tic-tac-toe. Now, I'm not going to talk about the actual playing of the game, because there's a full-blown narrative here, and to go into detail would deny you some of the genuine twists and turns this game makes. And yes, I realise I'm talking about a game in which you play tic-tac-toe. It has a complete story, it takes around 10 minutes to complete, and if you're curious, go on the Jam page, download it and try it out, or watch the developer's full playthrough on YouTube. This was a real gem, and it genuinely took me by surprise. This is but a fraction of the total games submitted to the Jam, and there's a lot of really cool stuff in here. It took me several nights to work my way through them all, and if you've enjoyed this video, I strongly encourage you to check them out. There's some fun and definitely weird stuff in there that I enjoyed playing, including even, dancing NPCs in the Anti-Sobriety Scavenger by Desk Toy. That was certainly something. Actually just reminded me of clubbing in Glasgow, I have to admit. Once again, congratulations to you all. Some very impressive stuff throughout here. It's been great fun to play through these. I want to take a moment to thank everyone once again for taking part. I hope you all enjoyed your time with us and gained something from the experience. In fact, I really hope some of these games continue on and receive some form of full-fledged release, be it on itch.io, on Steam, or elsewhere. If that does happen, get in touch either on the Discord or Twitter and let us cheer you on. Plus, a special thanks to our Jaminators, our moderation team within the AI and Games community, who helped give support and guidance throughout every day and night. wherever you were in the world. Plus, a final shout out to our Patreon community, because it was them banging the drum asking for a jam to happen, so you can really thank them for, well, effectively bullying me into doing this. If you're a little disappointed you missed out, fear not! I have deliberately referred to this as the 2021 AI in Games Jam, thus providing sufficient scope for a future event, like in, I don't know, 2022. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to catch announcements for future events, and who knows, you might like some of the other stuff that appears here too. Take care everyone, I'll be back.